Here we are on story number 2 in the fiction section, and you've had a chance to get to know Langston Hughes a little bit better and do some research on the Harlem Renaissance, I think. Let's take a look and see. Do the Harlem Shake, yes. So you will know a little bit more now when you read the story because you've done a little bit of research and read a little bit about Langston Hughes. The literary element we want to focus on in this story is not setting, although you might have some questions about setting. The focal point is plot. So you remember we talked about plot. Plot and conflict go together. Conflict is that two opposing forces that are evident in the story that are doing this number here. It may be a character and nature. It may be two characters. There's all different kinds. But what we're going to explore in plot is what events in the story fall in the exposition. And that's when those characters and setting are introduced. Now, sometimes, I will just tell you this, sometimes there's not not necessarily an event that happens that informs of characters and setting. Sometimes the author will just say, he'll say, this character was walking along a path in the Swiss Alps. Then you know, oh, okay, this is going to take place in the Swiss Alps. So you don't necessarily need to worry about, I need to find an event, because it may not be an event. For information articles, you spent yesterday reading a little bit about what do you know and then doing a little research about chocolate. So the article we're reading is about chocolate and the history of chocolate, which is very intriguing and interesting, especially if you love chocolate like me. So the information article, let's talk about the information article. The information article basically contains facts, explanations, or details. It's information, and it can be found in magazines, in newspapers, or on the internet. And this is actually becoming very common in today's world to read articles, information articles that provide facts, explanations, or details about a topic on the internet. So don't feel like it has to be paper or something like that. It can be on the internet. And probably are moving more and more in this direction. I don't know what the future holds. But it's very important that you remain aware that information presented in magazines, newspapers, and the internet can be fact or might include some opinion. Let's talk today a little bit about foreshadowing. Sometimes authors will give you a sneak peek or a hint about something that will happen in the future. Sometimes that hint is subtle and you have no idea until the second event happens or until that event, the foreshadowed event happens, and you say, oh, I remember that there was some information or this particular event, was pointing to this event. Other times it's so obvious that you can almost predict the foreshadowed event when you read the information earlier in the story or see a particular event. It's so obvious that, oh yeah, this is definitely going to cause that to happen. So sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it is not. Sometimes it's obvious. It depends on what the author's doing. Sometimes the title will even foreshadow something or give you a clue about that. It just depends. We'll see if that is the case with this story when we get to the end. So, foreshadowing is simply that sneak peek or hint about a particular event. So, the author will either create an event or give information at this point in the story that will foreshadow this event somewhere later on. Again, sometimes when we read this information or see this event, we say, oh, I predict this is going to happen, and it does. Sometimes our prediction is wrong. But foreshadowing, typically in the subtle form, is when you get to this event and then you remember either a previous event or information that says, aha, This was foreshadowed. The author was foreshadowing that. So if you look at today's activity, it says record what foreshadowed event or what foreshadowed the event listed in the box. Record your answer along with support from the text. So if you look at event number 1, it says on page 184, Mr. Granger fires Mama for defacing the books and teaching outside material that has not been approved by the county. So I have given you the answer. What foreshadowed this event? Miss Crocker tells Mama that she is biting the hand that feeds you. That's what she said, and that was on page 30. But there's also something else in the story that foreshadows this as well, where we get a hint that, uh-oh, there might be problems in this department. Today's figurative language that we'll be focusing on for The Walrus and the Carpenter, a very interesting title, I'd say, is personification. And you know this is one of my favorite types of figurative language. Personification is when we give something human-like qualities, and this something is not human. And remember, it's not making characters, or excuse me, animals in a book that are characters talk. It's not that. It's giving something non-human, human-like qualities. So the example in your textbook says, my hair refused to stay flat when I combed it. Oh, after I combed it. So the phrase that contains personification is, my hair refused to stay flat. So hair is receiving the non-human thing that is being given human-like qualities, because it's acting, it's refusing, it's taking an action. That's not human. Hair doesn't refuse anything. So that's what personification looks like. But what does it mean? That's the key, is determining what is the author trying to say, because obviously personification is used to emphasize something, to communicate something that goes above and beyond the literal meaning, because hair doesn't refuse ever. So the meaning is that my hair was just messy.